Not insensitive to your plight, but things just don't seem right. You hurt me beyond belief, and I can't get no relief. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Think I'll run for public office and try to make a change. Live up on your special interests, make a fortune in the stock exchange. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Today's show is sponsored by Farmer Joe's Fresh Market, located at 1401 Southwest Pine Island Road in beautiful Cape Coral, Florida. Ready or not, here Thanksgiving comes, so trot on over to Farmer Joe's and get you some apple, peaches, pumpkin pie. Farmer Joe's, your ride or die. Everything you need in more, Lee County's greatest grocery store, Farmer Joe's Fresh Market. Let me tell you about International Marble. Family owned and operated, serving all of Southwest Florida. Custom marble creations just for you. Give them a call at 239-878-2200. That's 239-878-2200. Veteran political analyst, attorney, businessman, author, Mr. Ford O'Connell is with us. You can find Ford at FordO'Connell.com, Ford O'Connell on X, and most reputable news sources. And right here on Smokin Joe Nation YouTube. Political activist Denise Nystrom joins us from Bonita Springs, and local advocate Jacqueline Perez from Island Park. Welcome to the Cracker Culture Podcast. I am Smokin Joe, and what a glorious day it is to be a Republican, Ford. I mean, Donald J. Trump is once again president-elect, making history, becoming only the second U.S. president to be elected to a non-consecutive term. Grover Cleveland being the first. He was a Democrat elected after the Civil War in 1885 to become the 22nd president, losing to Benjamin Harris in 1889 and coming back in 1892, defeating Harris with 62.4% of the Electoral College and 46% of the popular vote. Ford, at 78, Trump has shocked the world with his resilience to endure obstacles never faced by any other candidate running for office, pushing to win all swing states and the popular vote. Before we talk about this, I'm going to play a small clip for the viewers.
It is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
We're going to have to seal up those borders, and we're going to have to let people come into our country. We have to let them come back in, but they have to come in legally. A star is born, Elon. He's a character, he's a special guy, he's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them.
This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family. I want to thank the Nelt boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, busting with the boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan.
We can add a few names like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He wants to do some things, and we're going to let him go to it. I just said, but Bobby, leave the oil to me. We have more liquid gold, oil and gas. We have more liquid gold than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than Russia. Bobby, stay away from the liquid gold. Other than that, go have a good time, Bobby. Yesterday, as I stood at my last stop on the campaign trail, I'll never be doing a rally again. Can you believe it? Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try. We're going to try. We have to try. And it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that. So I want to just tell you what a great honor this is. I want to thank you. I will not let you down. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Trump, how do you follow that, bro? I mean, that was an amazing speech right there, bro. We took over the House and the Senate too, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. It appears that we're going to have all three levers that make legislation in Washington, D.C., the White House, the Senate, and the House. I do think that J.D. Vance undersold it, the vice president-elect. It's not just the greatest political comeback in history. It may be one of the greatest comebacks in American history, period. Look, 2024 was an election like none other. If this had been a Hollywood script and you try to sell this, okay, where you've got somebody with 2 assassination attempts. They try to knock him off the ballot, bankrupt him, jail him. The other party switches out their nominee. I mean, Hollywood would have said, we're not going to buy it. And the reason is because reality is stranger than fiction. I think this is a testament to the backbone of Donald Trump. Because I know if any one of those things had happened to me, I would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. Thank God Donald Trump didn't.
He's the most resilient man I've ever seen. I mean, it's just amazing. And you know, on the campaign trail, you know, he really worked it. And one of the things that he said that I thought about is this will be my last rally ever. Can you imagine the people that didn't get to participate or see in person one of those rallies, what they missed out in this lifetime?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. We're going into overtime because there will be a 2026 midterm elections, and Donald Trump's going to want to hold on to the House and the Senate during that time. I mean, look, he is not just the commander-in-chief. He is also the marketer-in-chief. And at a time when Americans were feeling down, thank God he was the Republican presidential nominee. I mean, here's the reason why he won. Really, in a nutshell, Kamala Harris was talking too much about Donald Trump's past and not enough about America's future. She was talking about the issues she wanted to talk about and not the majority of the issues that the voters cared about. And because of Donald Trump's personality, his brand, and the fact that he fixated like a hawk on inflation and the border is a true testament to his political acumen.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people are really losing it over this election. I mean, there's women, liberal women shaving their heads in protest, and the liberal media is melting down. I got a little clip of some liberal media stuff I'm going to play right quick.
I can't believe Trump's actually going to win this thing. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm so God.
When Donald Trump talked about the eating cats and dogs, half of America was just thinking, this is bad. I can't believe what he's saying. This is going to be the end of him.
Stop swearing. I've been telling
I'm
them.
so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I've had to tell them off for swearing, and then you do it. And I will. I mean, I'll tell Emily off later, but because I know she started the swearing. But it may be the middle of the night in Britain, but they're still a little bit sensitive about that stuff.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
America is crying tonight. I'm not sure how much of America, but a very, very significant portion, and I mean literally crying.
If historians in the future are allowed to write books, and by the way, that question is open this morning.
70 million plus that will be voting for a man who said he was going to assassinate for treason the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who's going to execute Liz Cheney with a firing squad.
Look, they're losing it for it. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, never believe your own press. There's a reason why media trust is at an all-time low. Let me just run through a couple of numbers. Donald Trump put together the most diverse coalition any Republican presidential nominees ever put together. Even greater, dare I say, than Ronald Reagan in 1984 when he won 49 states. Donald Trump got 46% of Hispanics. Let me say that again. Donald Trump got 46% of Hispanics. That's more than ever. He got something like 25% of black men. Okay. He got the majority of married women in this country, regardless of ethnicity. When you go down the numbers, okay, they all want to blame it, shall I say, on white skin and penises. And really what happened here was 49 of the 50 states moved right in 2024 from 2020. I think the only state that didn't might have been Washington or Vermont. And I mean, he gained 12 points in California. He gained 11.5 points in New York City. This wasn't just the rural or the exurbs or the suburbs or Florida. This was all over the country. And I'll tell you something else. Florida told you at about 8:30 p.m. Eastern he was going to be the 47th president of the United States for 3 reasons. First, he won Miami-Dade County for the first time since 1988, which told you he was tight with Hispanics. Then he went up to Osceola County, which is 58% Puerto Rican. He won that too. So you knew that whole Puerto Rican talking line was nonsense. And then he went up to Duval County and won it by 5 points. The reason why that matters is because Duval County is a microcosm of Georgia. So I knew he was going to win Georgia. The only question was when. And if you win Georgia, you're probably going to win North Carolina, and that puts you 85% of the way there. So Florida told the entire story of how Trump was going to run the table.
Well, I know me and you talked on election night, and you told me, man, I'm worried about North Carolina and Pennsylvania. If you know anybody, reach out. And I automatically did. I mean, like, well, Ford's telling me that. I mean, I started sending messages. I'm like, get out and vote, you know. But that was incredible. I mean, the amount, the watching, I mean, I stayed up. I wasn't going to go to sleep like the last time, wake up devastated. I stayed awake the whole thing, and I was watching it go blue and then back to red and back to blue. And I'm sitting there, I'm like gripping it, man, the whole time. And then finally, when I started to see it, I'm like, no, he's got it now. So, I mean, and he remarkably got it. I mean, if people wanted to make it too big to rig, he pretty much pulled that off this time.
That's exactly right, even though the Democrats are trying to rig the Pennsylvania Senate seat as we speak right now against Dave McCormick, who's the actual winner. Look, Trump ran the table. And the reason why Trump ran the table is because he's transformed the Republican Party from a party of big business and elitists to a party of small business, Main Street, the working class. That is the entire key. And as long as Republicans, once he's gone, remembers that if you represent the working class, you will be put into office. That's all the Republicans need to remember. But they have to take their cue from Donald Trump because he's not always going to be around.
I agree. Well, you know, President Trump is wasting no time choosing his cabinet. I'm going to play you this little clip and then we'll discuss it.
President-elect Donald Trump says that his former acting Immigrations and Custom Enforcement Director Tom Homan will serve as border czar in his upcoming administration. In addition to overseeing the southern and northern borders, Trump said Homan will, quote, be in charge of all deportation of illegal aliens back to their country of origin, a central part of the president-elect's agenda.
President-elect Donald Trump wasting no time setting up his staff for his next White House term, and his first move is a historic one.
Susie likes to stay sort of in the back.
Political strategist Susie Wiles is stepping out from her behind-the-scenes role as President-elect Donald Trump's longtime advisor and successful campaign manager. Now tapped to become the first female White House chief of staff when he returns to the Oval Office early next year.
She has no ego. She is an amazing woman. She is a perfect combination of talent and toughness. She does not let any shenanigans go on around her.
Other names rumored to be on the short list for a seat at the table. One-time rival Florida Senator Marco Rubio is in the running for Secretary of State. Formerly in that role, Mike Pompeo is being considered for Secretary of Defense. And his former competitor, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, could be named the next Energy Secretary.
Fantastic choice with Susie Wiles. They're going to have the pick of the litter in putting together a fantastic team to help drive our country forward.
We'll also likely see roles for billionaire Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and Trump's former challenger Vivek Ramaswamy.
For Susie Wiles, who I think is a remarkable woman, and most people that is not really into politics don't even have a clue who she is. But she stays in the background, but that's a powerful choice and a historic choice.
Well, look, have you ever seen a cabinet being formed where the chief of staff is named first? This is a testament to Susie Wiles. I don't think it's ever happened, let alone the first female chief of staff in the history of Washington, D.C. when it comes to presidency. Look, she's a strong woman. She gets things done. I think here's what's the most important part about it. One, she's respected by everybody in Trump world and outside of Trump world together as well. And not only that, she's been in the trenches with Trump, okay? A lot of these chiefs of staff, there's sort of a growing period where you have to figure each other out. That's not going to happen. But I will say, the pick of Tom Homan, that was honestly savage, because this man is the greatest patriot I know among people that have been around Washington, D.C. What Donald Trump was telling you is, I'm not joking about deportations. I'm not joking about the border. I promise that we're going to get the border under control, and there's nobody better equipped to do it in this entire country than Tom Homan.
Well, what Tom Homan just recently said, and I think it shocked people. He said, what about this? Are we going to separate families, at the border and stuff? And Tom Homan says, no, we'll ship them the whole family back. Like, we ain't separating nobody.
Well, Tom's not a politician. What Tom is, Tom wants to get things done. He has been at the border for more than 30 years of his life. He knows exactly what's going on. He has the respect of everybody in CPB and in ICE. So this is a guy who really understands where Donald Trump wants to go, and Donald Trump's going to give him the tools to make it happen. And I'm going to tell you something, we're going to be thankful as a nation.
Well, and one thing that I want to say, Bergman, I love that choice. I would have liked to seen him as a VP pick, honestly, but I love that choice.
I got one for you that might be as good. Again, it's still in the works. I would say, wouldn't it be great if he was Secretary of Energy? Because if he was Secretary of Energy, guess who the best way you're going to bring down inflation is? I wonder. Look, I think that Bergman is very smart, probably one of the smartest men I've ever been around. And frankly, he's going to get a spot as well. But I'll tell you something, Joe. We've got a little bit of a Senate majority leader battle going on in Washington, D.C. And hopefully a Floridian named Rick Scott will be the winner. But I'll tell you this, back in 2020, okay, Florida was the epicenter of the Republican Party for a variety of reasons. Obviously, the biggest being Trump moving to Mar-a-Lago. But, you had a lot of things like Rick Scott, Marco Rubio. I'm going to tell you something. Florida is now the center of the American political process, particularly if Marco Rubio becomes Secretary of State and Congressman Michael Waltz becomes a national security advisor. That also sends a message. It was one of Trump's promises that, how should I say, many journalists haven't picked up on it. These two guys are China hawks. I think that if Rubio actually accepts and becomes Secretary of State, he'll be the first Secretary of State ever to be banned by the Chinese government.
Well, I want to go ahead and also report that South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem has been selected as Homeland Security Secretary. I think that, what do you think? How will Homeland work with her?
Look, Kristi Noem knows exactly what Donald Trump wants to do. And she's going to give him the entire latitude to do what he needs to be done. She knows that he's the master when it comes to securing the border, and she's going to make it happen. I think she was selected because she understands when Donald Trump says, I want to do X, she's going to make it happen. That's the entire key. I think there was a loyalty there because there were some folks that were a little critical of Kristi Noem, but at the same time, Donald Trump's got the loyalty in her, and she understands that Tom Homan's the boss.
Before we move to our local coverage, I also want to point out that yesterday was Veterans Day. We support all our veterans, and I'm bringing this up because at Columbia University, there was massive protest against the veterans. And I want to say there was about 20 or 30 veterans that was standing up to all those massive crowds, and God bless them men.
Absolutely. Men and women. Let me say this.
Yes.
Here's the problem with higher education in this country. They've taught to hate America. And in the Ivy League, which Columbia is one of the 8 Ivy League schools, it's important to know that I do not believe that there's one ROTC chapter at any one of the 8 Ivy League schools. And then you wonder why they spit on the very freedom that they've been given to sit on that soapbox. There you go. God bless our veterans, because without them, we wouldn't be where we are today.
100%. Well, it's about that time.
Man's trash.
We're going to get into the man's trash. Now, today on the man's trash, there's local elections had reports of issues at many voting locations. Let's bring in advocate Jacqueline Perez and political activist Denise Nystrom with more details on what happened in many districts across Lee County. Now, before we get started, I got this sent to me, and I've shared it with everybody pretty much, but this came into me on election night.
Was a write-in and not who she voted for. And she said it happened to some other people.
So let me ask you, so you said you're in Lehigh, and so she wrote in her choice. And
the machines no, she didn't write in her choice. She picked one that was on the ballot.
Okay.
But when it printed, it was a write-in that she'd never heard of that person.
Interesting.
So what I'm thinking is, if it's for presidential, then what's happening is it's taking away from, say Trump.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't give it to Kamala, but it gives it to somebody else. So that's one more that she has over him.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Did she see the name
So,
that populated?
I didn't ask her. She just said she didn't know who it was. So we're kind of passing the message down the line here to double check your printed copy before you submit it to make sure that what was on the screen printed on your paper copy. But I thought that he needed to know something is going on here.
Yeah, that's
some shenanigans.
interesting. And can you just tell me the voting location in Lehigh? Where was it?
Okay, East County Regional Library.
Okay.
It's by the high school here with some Lehigh Acres.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I will go ahead and send the message up to the appropriate channel.
Yeah, they need to come here.
All right, so now I did talk to one of the commissioners about this, and Tommy Doyle, which is going to come relevant later on, said that it was operator error, that it was, he blamed it on the voter, that the voter was not using the stylus pen to vote, was using her fingers, and that was the reason. However, the woman in that video, that was talking about that video, she submitted her ballot 4 times to finally get the vote for Trump. So, Jacqueline, I know that you've been on top of this. What have you heard about the problems with the voting machines?
There was another issue as well. I have a friend who has a private detective agency. She has 2 boys. And when she took them to register for their licenses, you know how you can register to vote at the same time?
Right.
Registered both of them. The 3 of them went to vote on the day of voting. And one of the boys was not registered. And they were fighting her on giving her son a provisional ballot on it. And she's a big Trump supporter as well. So I know that the DMV office is a designated office for registering voters. If we're going to have problems like that, how many people missed? She spent an additional 30 to 40 minutes there arguing with them for them to provide him a ballot. Not most people would do that.
Right. Yeah, and when I went to vote, I'll tell you, I went to vote in Lehigh, and I was just happened to be driving through, and I asked for a paper ballot. And I honestly tell you, they did not know how to print a paper ballot. I had to walk them through the steps. And I mean, they tried to give me a provisional ballot. I said, no, I want a paper ballot. And there was one guy there, and I don't know, he knowed me because when I left, he winked at me. He said, good job, Smoky. I don't know who that guy is, but I'd like to find out because he knew that what I was doing. He kept winking at me the whole time, so he knew I was trying to do it right. There's a lot of other discrepancies here locally, Ford, and we're going to really get into it now. But I want to play this next clip. Now, I want to tell people that I had a hard time putting this clip on because of who is in the video. This is from Cindy Beignet, and anybody that knows me knows that I think she's one of the most horrible people on the face of the earth. But let me play this video, and y'all decide.
Precinct, it was the McGregor precinct, and so this was really also like a class divide issue as well. And so
the wealthy
what I had
McGregor
done,
swingers.
Yeah, so the McGregor folks overwhelmingly chose their friend who also lives on McGregor. It was really close, so we were looking at how to move it to a recount. In the state of Florida, you only get a recount as an automatic recount at 0.5%. And we did not ultimately end up moving any votes after the provisionals were done. But there's something else that came up, and this is something that I'm looking at pursuing that's very concerning. So the League of Women Voters had tagged the precinct that I won, 217, as having issues with their ballot. So people were receiving Ward 4 ballot, but were actually in Ward 5.
Oh dear.
And this was something, by the way, I'd heard this in other races. This happened at least once in Phil Carter's district and once in Chris Proya's district, where, and honestly, what it was vote by mail, and there was somebody in the household, like a husband and wife or whatever, and one has their ballot, one had their other, and they look at it, they're like, oh shit, they're different. Had reported it to the supervisors of elections, and the supervisors of election was working to correct those ballots. My concern is, how widespread is this? The other thing. Because I'm running other people's campaigns, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, like, you're basically the Democrat Terry Miller. Let's be real.
Yes,
I mean,
and by the way,
that could taint the whole thing.
Tommy Doyle was very quick to throw the vendor under the bus on this.
Oh,
because I was like, hey, is this a data issue? Like, because it kind of sounded like maybe just something got slid over or whatever. I work with big data sets, so I understand there's issues that happen, right? And he's like, oh, no, our data was fine. It was the vendor that must have messed it up. So I'm like, oh, okay. Kind of came out the gates really quick with throwing the vendor under the bus. I wonder if they know. Also,
good.
I have other people, very reputable sources of people who are telling me that they voted and there's no record of their vote.
Now, there's a lot to unpack in this, and I apologize if you feel stupider for watching it. That's probably acceptable, and I tried to help y'all not to look at that ugly mug of Cindy Vignes throughout the podcast. And Sean Hartman, bless his heart, snorting like a hog over there, and in the video he's later fired up a joint, smoking pot on the video, everything, and he's supposed to be representing the Conservative Party. I'm sorry, it was, if you want to see a shit show, that was it. But she did have some valid points for it. If this is happening, if they're changing the ballots from 4 to 5, can they even certify this election for it? I don't understand how that they can't recall all this.
I've questioned this for a very long time. Look, when I bring up things like this, the media says, well, there's no widespread fraud. Well, I'm like, in some of these states, I don't need widespread. All I just need is a vote here and there, and that's going to throw off an entire presidential election, particularly in a couple of swing states. Here's what I don't know, and here's what needs to really be investigated. Where does the incompetence end and the fraud begin? Because I'm going to tell you, a lot of things that may look fraudulent are due to incompetence. Like your point, Joe, where can I get a paper ballot? What, you don't have paper ballots? What are paper ballots? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. And it's not only that. There's two gentlemen who wrote a very good book on this a couple of years ago. One is named Hans von Spakovsky, who's the legal guy at the Heritage Foundation when it comes to election law. And the other one's a man named John Funn from National Review. I tell people, just peruse it online and you'll get a better idea of how these issues are versus just saying fraud all the time. But there are a lot of suspicious things, and there's too many of them that happen to be able to say, hey, our elections are 100% A-OK.
Well, and look, I mean, if she's got a valid issue now, if she would have won and Harris would have won, we'd have never heard her say a word about it. Trust me, she would have never said nothing. But the fact is, it's out there. Trump won, and I still want people, even if it's an issue that's brought up by a disgusting Democrat. Now, I'm going to tell you how disgusting. If you watch that entire thing, the Democrat Party wouldn't even help her with her election. Okay, and for Sean Hartman to call her the Democrat Terry Miller, well, I agree that she's a piece of crap just like Terry Miller, but she's by no means affecting our local politics like Terry Miller.
Joe, can I chime in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just so you know, the same thing was happening at the Bonita voting center. I wanted a mail-in ballot, and I mean, they finally did get me one, but they were hard-pressed to find them. Now, you would have thought that after a few people went in there and asked for mail-in ballots that they would have had some kind of a process, but no, they didn't. I cannot tell you how many people in Bonita reached out to me that tried to get, write-in paper ballots, I should have said, I meant to say. And the other thing is that when the sample ballots came out, Tara Jenner's name was left off of the sample ballots for state committee woman. And I know that because friends of mine had, again, gone into the Bonita voting center, and it was reported to Tommy Doyle's office. I'm sorry, if the buck doesn't stop with the supervisor of elections, who does it stop with?
Let me chime in as well. Victor Arias, I spoke with him, who was running against Denise Carlin, said on the sample ballots that he received and he brought up to Tommy Doyle, it's supposed to go in alphabetical order, correct?
Yes.
His name is Victor Arias. It's Denise Carlin. Denise Carlin's name was on top of his. And he approached Tommy Doyle, and Tommy Doyle said it wasn't his fault, that his office had set it up incorrectly. and he
But
was.
Tommy Doyle saying that he's highly incompetent. Is that what I'm expecting here? Because I've been critical of Tommy Doyle too for some of these things. He's like, "Oh, that's only the sample ballot." I go, "Oh, see, that's the problem. If it's only that, what else is being done?" And again, sometimes it's not fraudulent; it's just complete incompetence.
Well, and again, who picked Tommy Doyle?
Yeah,
and then we can ask who picked a whole lot of people, because he was a Terry Miller pick. So what was his background? What made him the person that had so much expertise that he should become our supervisor of elections? The same could be said for a whole lot of people that are in office in this county.
So you have a relation of Tommy Doyle's behavior, with the sexual relationship during work hours, misuse of funds, and all this incompetence. And the incompetence itself, I think, could sway an election. It could impact it. Joe and I were talking this morning. How many votes was it? The difference between Banier and
like 70 something.
70 votes.
Yeah.
And that's very, very small margin.
Well, it was real close in Bill Liberal's race, and as well as the race in Bonita for mayor, it was very close.
You're right. It was like 120 for Bill Ribbles, and I think under 100 for the mayor's race in Bonita. Correct, Denise?
Yeah.
That is correct. And again, who ended up winning in Bonita? Well, Mike Gibson did. Who is Mike Gibson? A Terry Miller candidate. Who had access to mailers from Terry Miller's PAC? Mike Gibson. Now, it is true that he only won by a few votes. There were actually 4 people in that race. So I think I think at least one other person helped to split the vote. But the bottom line is that, it was just a few hundred votes.
Well, let's discuss the local victories and how many of them were Terry Miller candidates. We've been following this, and I really lost all hope in Cape Coral. They did replace the incumbents, but some of the replacements are not quite what I would like to see. Definitely Jennifer Nelson. I mean, she is a Missy Laster candidate, but
Terry Miller sent her mailers.
Right. So
he was involved in her campaign heavily.
And you got and then going over to the state representative race, Tiffany Esposito won it with a landslide, and that you had a libertarian running against her, but still everything bases around Terry Miller. And Denise, in your area, I'm sure you got a lot of Terry Miller candidates that won in Bonita.
There are 3 people that let's see, now we have the mayor and we have 2 councilmen, Jesse Perdone. I'm trying to think of the name of the other person. But here's the thing that sometimes people don't understand, and that's why you have to take a look at the campaign contributions, and you have to take a look at where the mailers and the robotechs are coming from, if they're coming from PACs, because just because somebody might be working not with Terry Miller, but with possibly another campaign manager, doesn't mean that they're not affiliated with Terry Miller and Terry Miller isn't actually backing their races. So unless you really look through those contributions in terms of where they're coming from in the PACs, then, for example, Rachel Caduck. Rachel Caduck claimed that she had a different campaign manager. She wasn't a Terry Miller candidate. But if you take a look at her campaign contributions, she's got PAC money there. She's got local elected official money there. Same thing with, I think, Jennifer Nelson, who had mailers go out for her. Trying to think of who else. So sometimes, they're still affiliated with him, regardless of whether he's their direct campaign manager or not.
Well, like I said, Ford, you ran for that seat against Tiffany Esposito, and that they just flooded the money against you and the negative mailers and stuff like that. But I mean, when will everybody wake up and see that this whole area is controlled?
They don't want to, and they don't focus on enough, because I keep saying this over and over. Everyone focuses on who the president is. Everyone focuses on who our United States senators. Nobody focuses first and foremost on our county commissioners, because those are the people that actually have the most control of your day-to-day life. And not only that, in my case, we're not even talking about where's the PAC money come from in the area. We were getting so far into him that he was going all the way up to Tallahassee to have to get more money. Right. And then having to cover it 7 other ways. I mean, that's the entire way. It's just basically layered, but Terry Miller is always in the vicinity, regardless of whether or not, to Denise's point and to Jacqueline's point, whether or not you're a Terry Miller candidate. So, I mean, he's everywhere all the time. Look, it's a testament to him, but it's screwing up Lee County and starting to screw up Collier and Charlotte as well.
Absolutely. Well, you brought up the county commissioners. Now, and I've totally been against David Mulicka's race, and David Mulicka did get the seat. He's a Terry Miller candidate. But there's some information we've been putting out. Me, Denise, and Jacqueline, all three have been working this DEP investigation and finds there's new information. And Jacqueline, you want to tell us what's going on with Dave Mulicka?
The DEP issued a consent order for him to sign, but they did not include a date, a termination date, like when he has to sign that form. It's like open-ended. So I've been on DEP's phone calls and emails because I want to tie them down as to why they're not tying him down. It's been 5 years, and somebody needs to make him clean up this site that he's polluted with carcinogens.
Well, that open-ended with the signature, could that be just because so he didn't have to sign it before the election?
I think so. I think that he I know that they have influence all the way up to Tallahassee, and Dan Eagle sat in on a couple of the meetings, which I found very, very unusual. Why would he be sitting in on Mulicka's meetings for polluting a property there? I know that in a private conversation, Denise was present actually with DEP members. They said that Dan Eagle stated to almost in a threatening manner to the girls there, do you know who this is? His wife is your state representative. Do you know that she has ties to the governor? So, I mean, that's a threat.
Well, we did have a Republican pretty much overall victories in Lee County, but the problem is I don't consider a lot of them people that claim conservative really conservative, and so we're faced with. And one person I want to bring up is Spencer Roach. Now, we talked about this, me and Ford, and we said all along he would be doing something with the school district. And I don't understand why he would do that. Now, I'm going to play you a video that I've shared before, but this is Spencer Roach in his own words.
My constituents are pissed. I mean, we're seeing 500 to 1,000 people attending school board meetings now that really couldn't draw a crowd of 20 to 30 people prior to COVID.
Republican State Representative Spencer Roach is thrilled that mask mandates are bringing new people in to the crusade against public education.
So I never used the word public school. I use the term government school because that's what these are, and it should be looked at in the same context as government housing or government health care. So I think this anger
what
really.
Does that mean? You mean like there shouldn't be government schools, or there? Or what are you saying?
I think as a parent, you should do everything possible to avoid having your child in a government school.
When we're hearing from school board members that they're worried people are coming here to try to really dismantle the public school system, they're not wrong. You do want to do that.
They're not wrong, and I will tell you this. You know, the government school system right now is a monopoly.
Now, this is Spencer Roach, who they have just decided will be your legislative liaison for the Lee County School District. What do y'all think about that?
He's going to be appointed to the Lee County School District's Director of Government Relations. This was actually created on November and approved by the board the day after November 6th, I think it was, the day after election. They have this brand new position that was created. Miraculously, he fills the criteria for this, they're saying, to fulfill this position. Now, they had created another position 2 weeks before that. I think that we spoke about that for Riley Kempton. And that was a government liaison
coordinator. Yeah.
So here we are filling the district, Terry Millerite, and someone who was so against public schools, and he's going to be representing a public district. I don't even understand that.
How much does he get paid?
It's the pay salary is between 108 and 150.
Mm-hmm.
A far
What a deal. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe we should make some more positions to steal from the people of Lee County. Right?
Well, that's exactly what they're doing. And
Isn't there a conflict of interest here where somebody what about the law that says you leave office and you can't be lobbying your own friends again?
I think I believe there is a conflict of interest, and then he gets his own office. He'll get a secretary. He'll get a vehicle. He'll get his phone bill paid for. They'll be paying into his other retirement now. This is bullshit. This is crazy.
Yeah, so what people don't understand, if they link it together, is these deals were already made, and they were made a long time ago. So, for example, when Terry Miller took Denise Carlin on to run for superintendent, these are the things that were already being discussed.
Right.
Spencer decides he's not going to rerun for state representative because he knows that this job is forthcoming. Okay, so all of these deals are being made up front. Same thing like Riley Kempton, who actually worked for Terry Miller as his associate. And yes, there is a law. It was actually passed in 2022. It was House Bill 7001, which specifically states that anybody that was an elected official is prohibited from being in a capacity as a lobbyist for 6 years. So that's new information that Jacqueline actually found out today. And that is information that we are definitely going to act on. But in the end, what people are not understanding is all of these deals that are being cut. And Terry Miller, when he no longer has a position for people in political office, he's finding them a way to get them, a job that's $100,000 or $150,000 a year plus benefits.
So Denise Carlin is essentially the puppet master for Terry Miller.
She's
Correct
the
me if
puppet
I'm wrong,
master.
Jacqueline. I do believe that Spencer Roach voted for that bill that says you can't lobby after 6 years. Now, wouldn't that be karma?
Wow. Okay,
I think. I'm going to be clear.
Yeah.
Well, and again, and I'm going to say this, we all have heard rumors and things about Spencer. And, some things I won't repeat them, but I'll tell you that I had a very high up, extremely high up member of the GOP say, I don't want Spencer Roach around my children or nobody else's children. He said, I don't even want him having them guardian ad litem children. I don't want Spencer around children. That speaks volumes. Now, I'm talking about somebody, a leader in the GOP said that to me just a couple of days ago.
I've heard similar things too as well. I'm really, when I heard that they were going to be gifting him the position on Sunday and Monday, I physically was sick. I just, you fight so much. It's been so long, all this corruption at the school district. You get to this point that you feel like you clean out one department because we've done so much. Not that anybody has helped us locally with elected officials. We've actually gotten rid of very bad employees that were corrupt, that were fixing bids, that were taking bribes. We've done that. And then to have this new board come in that's supposed to be the top of the cream, conservatives representing our values, and they're filling the district with garbage to steal money from children, our community, everything that we're working so hard to stop. They're like roaches.
Well, I want to expand on what Jacqueline's saying here. What Jacqueline's saying, just for the viewer, is very simple, is that the public corruption just keeps growing and keeps growing. And who winds up being the loser here? Not only Lee County residents, but Lee County children, who are the future of Lee County and Southwest Florida. It's sickening, to your point, that you stop one set of corruption. What do? They just find a new set of corruption. It's like the Burmese python. You kill one, 5 more come. It's unbelievable.
Crazy. I'm overwhelmed since, yes. I called Denise last night. I was so upset. I'm so overwhelmed at how this is just spreading like a cancer. It's horrible.
Well, and it's because the average citizen of Lee County, they just want to get their kids educated in school. They don't have time to do what we do. They don't look at this from the perspective we look at it. And to your point earlier, there's a lot of people that we've been able to remove from this district, but the average person has no clue that we've done that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, realistically, I applaud all of you because y'all's efforts are basically, it seems like in vain, but you keep fighting, you keep trying, and that's the only way we're going to accomplish anything. We can't give up.
Well, and what happened was back in 22. So not only do the Millerites, because it's not just him, there's a cabal of them, control what's going on with the local elected officials and what's going on in Tallahassee. But then they also controlled the LCREC, the Lee County Republican Executive Committee, up until December of 2022, when the members of that committee began to realize what it was that was going on, and they voted them out. but they still have control over the board members of the Republican clubs, not the members themselves, but the board members. And those are just being utilized for another Terry Miller tool as well. So we actually have elections coming up in the LCREC. They are going to be on December 3rd. And who do we have running for chair of the LCREC? None other than Armor Persons, whose wife is actually the treasurer for the Conservative Leadership Caucus PAC, whose daughter is Jenna Persons, who's contributed a lot of money to that PAC. That PAC has contributed a lot of money to Terry Miller's PACs. Terry Miller's PACs have been used to put out false hit pieces on grassroots conservatives such as Matt Thornton. And so basically they want what they want is they want the REC back. And I'll tell you what, at all costs, I hope that they do not take this REC back, because it is literally the only thing that we have that they want.
Well, the only thing that's even worse than the corruption, okay, Denise, is the nepotism. I mean, think about what you just said. This is the father of the daughter who's a state representative, who's married to the county commissioner, who's dumping waste in our water, who, by the way, decides that ruining the school board isn't enough, so now he's got to control the Lee County Republican Executive Committee. I mean, the whole thing, again, if this were a Hollywood script, no one would believe you. But yet this is what's going on.
Well, and it's sad. I mean, when I hear people praise these people for the job they're doing, it shows how little our community knows about the job they're not doing.
Exactly.
And, I can get up here and parade around at all these different events and tell you how great I am. But if somebody like Denise or Jacqueline or me is not pointing out how great you're not, then we've got an issue.
So example of how horrible it is that people don't understand. We have a brand new elementary school that opened up a couple of years ago in Lehigh in District 5, which is Armour's district, called Al-Manesir. And the principal that was appointed there is Holly Matthews. Well, they're a D school for the last couple of years, verging on an F. And the state walked in to investigate not too long ago. And she was, from what I heard, very rude to them. They wrote a letter to the district. They want her removed immediately. The school needs to improve ASAP. So the superintendent removed her from the school and appointed her to his cabinet. So she was rewarded for doing a crap.
We just lost Jacqueline. Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, I know where she was going with this. I mean, Holly Matthews was actually the assistant to Dr. Ken Savage, who took over for Greg Atkins when Greg Atkins left, and before the school board actually did the hiring and then hired Dr. Christopher Bernier. So, so you had Ken Savage, who brought Holly Matthews in as his assistant. And then when he was on his way out, he wanted to save Holly Matthews. So he moved Holly Matthews to a building. So what she's now explaining is the nepotism about how they keep adding these positions. They keep moving people around to secure them. And in the meantime, the school is getting a D rating. I knew where you were going with
Denise,
that.
one more thing, just so people know, how much do we spend each year on Lee
I'm
County?
I'm losing.
Oh my God. I think the budget is now up to $3.6 billion.
Okay. So 3.6 billion real quick for Lee County. And we have schools that are failing and letting down. We're like what, the bottom quartile for sure. And the entire thing, probably the bottom 10%. $3.5 billion.
They have no special education programs, no ESL programs. I'll bet you a dime to a dollar. They don't have very good curriculum in general. The porn books are still in the library. The textbooks still have critical race theory. This is supposedly with a conservative board.
And also burns for more money than Kamala Harris's campaign.
Correct. Oh, and can I just mention one thing? I've been kind of quiet about it, but I'm just going to say it. Armor Persons is trying to get me kicked out of the LCREC because he says I'm a detriment to the Republican Party. I'm the one that's not conservative enough. I mean that's just a joke.
You're not stealing. That's your problem.
Yeah, there you go. I should be stealing with all of them, and then I'd be part of the club.
Well, that gentleman,
there's a saying at the school district: "Mess up and move up."
Last
and that's
week
basically it. These are the people that they reward are not people who are fighting to protect children and to give children the best education that they can have. They reward people who are aligned with them, who will protect them, who will lie for them, who will cover up things, those are the people who are rewarded, the people who should be terminated, people who don't represent really good moral core values of protecting children. They're
I'm
not.
beginning to like Chris Patrica, Jacqueline.
Yeah, well, you know what? Vanessa was just elected, who was a Terry Millerite candidate, and she was so upset that there were teachers that called her out because on her resume, she put down that she was a teacher and an administrator, and they did a background search, and I also looked into it, and she was never a state certified teacher in the state of Florida or anywhere, and she was never an administrator. So she went to 2 schools in Cape Coral and tried to have these teachers written up because she saw on their Facebook post that it was done during the day hours. And she said that they were abusing their time, but the principal responded back that he would not do that because she didn't know if they were on their breaks. But imagine how she's going to be now on the board if she is trying to punish teachers for speaking their First Amendment right of free speech. This is horrific what is happening to the school.
So let's start wrapping this up. Denise, what should is there anything people need to know? I know there's a meeting tonight. Should people come out to this meeting? What should people need to know right now?
I mean, for the committee meeting tonight for the Lee GOP, the only people that can vote for those board members happen to be the members of the Lee GOP. So it's not something that countywide people can vote on. But for those people that are going to be there, there's a big elephant in the room. Now, there's not an elephant in the room for the people that know what's going on, but there are any number of people that don't really get the dynamics of the politics. So when they're up there listening to Armour speak and he's saying, what a great leader he is and how he can handle board meetings, the elephant in the room is about the fact that he and all of his cabal friends are all using Terry Miller, all using PAC money, all using elected official money, and they want control over that LCREC because it's the LCREC that interfaces with the Republican Party of the state of Florida. They've lost that ability because Tara Jenner won as state committee man and Mick Peters won as state committee woman, and he won a state committee man. And the last thing that we need is that cabal back in office at the local GOP. That's what people need to know. There's an elephant in the room, and they need to know what it is and confront it.
Yes. Yeah, I think everybody needs to go out and try to circumvent this if they can. Ford, what you got coming up, man?
This Sunday at 9 p.m., I will be in a new documentary on Newsmax. It will be called Foul Play. That will discuss the wokeness, the idea of women playing or men playing in women's sports. I promise you'll like it because the way the production crew did the last one, something to watch. 9 p.m. Eastern this Sunday.
Okay,
all right, I'll watch it. That. Jacqueline, what do you got going on?
Did you hear about FEMA not going into people's homes that had Trump?
Yeah, I saw the whole thing.
Well, it come out. I just watched that woman do an interview. And it come out that she that it was people in Florida and North Carolina, anybody that had a Trump sign in their yard, they were told to avoid it, and they're blaming it on confrontation, claiming they had a couple of confrontations with Trump supporters. That's what she said today. They're passing the buck and blaming her.
Now, a month ago, this was known as a conspiracy theory, according to CNN. And now the election's over, and now it's verified. Has anyone done anything about it? Absolutely not. I mean, this is why it's so rigged all around. And the fact is, after a hurricane, you've lost just about everything. You don't know if the insurance company, if you have insurance, is going to fix it. And what does our own government do? They're playing political favorites. I mean, let's talk about undemocratic.
Absolutely. Well, we got to get rid of the bureaucrats is what we got to do. That's and a lot of the liberals and the leftists, they say, oh, they're trying to destroy the bureaucracy. Well, yeah, we need rid of the bureaucracy. We need a republic.
The federal bureaucracy and the local Lee County bureaucracy.
Absolutely. Well, folks, I want to thank you.
Yeah, identical.
Folks, I want to thank you for joining us this week on the Cracker Culture Podcast. We'll be back real soon. I want to thank Jacqueline Perez for joining us and Denise Nystrom for Smokin, Joe, and Ford O'Connell. We'll see you next time. We love you, Florida.